What's up, brand builder? Stephen Houraghan here on the Brandmaster podcast. And in this episode, I'm chatting with Phyllis Williams Strawder, also known as the Ghetto Country Brand Mother. Now, Phyllis is a personal brand at its best, and she's gone from the barbecue world where she started and grew a barbecue business to $2 million into the branding world where she's consulting with clients about building their brand through brand strategy. And in this episode, we're chatting about her journey from that world, from the barbecue world into the brand strategy world, and the value of having processes, overcoming imposter syndrome, and knowing your worth. So if you want to know how to get into brand strategy, how somebody has gone from the barbecue world into the brand strategy world through processes, through trial and error, through a little bit of courage, then stick around for this episode of the Brandmaster podcast. Welcome to the Brandmaster podcast. Show specialized in helping branding professionals and entrepreneurs to build brands using strategy, psychology, and creative thinking. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brandmaster podcast. And I'm absolutely delighted to have on the show with me today, Phyllis Williams Strawder. Now, Phyllis, if you don't know that name, you might know her as her personal brand name, which is the Ghetto Country Brand Mother. Phyllis, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh my goodness, you don't know how excited I am for this. I get you all to myself, so hey, I'm good.
Let's get into it. So, Phyllis, I've got a bunch of questions here for you, and that'll kind of take us through how you became a brand strategist and how you're now providing strategy services to clients and helping them to elevate their own personal brands. But before we get to there, why don't we kind of bring it back a little bit, because you don't actually come from a branding background per se. You started and grew a $2 million barbecue business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then how that led you to the world of branding?
Yeah, we started out in barbecue. It was all smoke. It was an accident. I actually had a job way back when, but my husband, he was doing barbecue competitions, and barbecue competitions are expensive. And he was spending my shoe money, y'all. And that's what was pissing me off. And so we started selling lunches from our dining room table in order to make money for him to do the competitions. And it just grew from that. And every time we did something, it's like, okay, baby, what do you think about this? Okay, baby, what do you think about that? And I said, I was the one that talked myself into this, even though I don't cook on purpose. I should not have owned anybody's restaurant for any reason. I don't even cook with my child. But because my husband, and food is my husband's love language, and he loves to cook, he loves spicy, he loves all of that. So every time I saw an opportunity for us to step forward, I would take it. So we went from our dining room table, went from our farmers markets to catering, and so we opened up our first restaurant, and that was in I forget 2015, 2014, somewhere around there. And then we opened our second restaurant. My second restaurant was my favorite, and it was called Big Mister's Morning Wood. And people would stop and take pictures. But we were getting ready to open a third restaurant, and I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I was kind of done. And from there, I had to figure some shit out, because I thought I wanted to be a business coach. But then as I was getting my certification in branding, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. But my husband had always been the face of the company. And I had to I got to go look at people and talk to people myself. It's like, oh, yeah. So it was kind of scary. And so it went from barbecue to branding. That's just the really short version of that journey.
Awesome. Well, before I kind of dig into that a little bit, before we move on from the barbecue side of things, what was your number one seller?
Our number one seller was, we had a couple, but the biggest one was brisket. Doing a smoked brisket is hard for a lot of people, because they either dry it out, and you always see those barbecue people where they squeezing the meat and squeezing all the juice out. Sweetie's only juice on one side. The dry side is like, But yeah, people don't believe that nonsense. It's like, you don't squeeze the juice out because it takes too much to put the juice in. But brisket was our best seller. And then we did something called pig candy. And pig candy is thick sliced maple bacon covered in cayenne brown sugar, and I rub and we smoke it till we make bacon batter. Yeah, that was what people came to us for. They
Well,
just bought the barbecue because it was extra.
it's coming up to dinner time over here, so that's kind of really got me going. If ever I make it over that side, I would like a taste of at least one of those. So we'll put a pin in that until later on. So as you grew that business, you got a taste for business, and that was all kind of by accident. When you when you came across branding, what was it about branding that spoke to you and kind of took you down that path? What was it that drew you in?
It was probably actually my own insecurities because, like I said, in our former business, it was always easy to push Neil in front of the camera because Neil's a media whore. He likes that kind of stuff. But for me, because now I had to speak up for myself, and while I had started doing some public speaking, I still was not comfortable in marketing my business. It's like it's easy to put a price on a sandwich and put a price on a rack of ribs and all that kind of stuff. But then that whole thing where when people talk about charge your worth, it's like, hell, I don't know what I'm worth. I don't know what to charge. It became very problematic, and my business suffered early on until I figured out like finding branding was like finding damn near a religion for me. It's like, oh shit, I get to do this. And now I have to show up and do this. And once I took myself out of it and just made it about the brand, then it was a lot easier for me to begin to step into that. It wasn't like just, it flipped a switch, but it was still like, okay, this is going to be my saving grace. I'm going to blame it on the brand. If anything gets fucked up, then it's not my fault. It's the brand's fault.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know Phyllis or her personal brand, that colorful language is a badge of honor that you wear, and we'll talk about brand personality and personal branding in a little bit, and how you make it work for you in a way that I really align with, all about authenticity and you know, not putting on a facade and giving everybody as much of you as possible, and how infectious that is. But in terms of how, because a lot of professional brand builders in, you know, coming into it from an execution point of view tend to come from the likes of graphic design and copywriting, but you came in through a different door. So when was the first time you heard about the term brand strategy, and, you know, what did that kind of mean to you when you heard the term brand strategy and you started to go down that road? Tell us a little bit about that journey, and if it was confusing for you, if you know, what your sources were, and you know, and why that kind of pulled you further down that rabbit hole.
I think it, excuse me, I think it was kind of confusing for me because I had never thought about branding from a strategic standpoint of how you get from here to there to build that reputation. But I think it might have been Chris Doe in the future in one of his videos. But once I heard the term, I started researching, and I tried to get as much free content about it as possible. And then I found your videos, and I love your shit. But but it was the way that you explained it and how you gave so much context behind it. Where some people, like, I'm not going to call them gatekeepers. Some people have their secret sauce that they're trying to keep behind closed doors. But you put it all out there. But even though you put it all out there, you still don't know how to put that stuff together, which is why we pay for your shit. But it was such that, you know what, it made me realize, even though we had a multi-million-dollar food business, we could have made millions more had we had a strategic brand. And so I took your course. I think I took yours first. And then everybody was talking about Marty Neumeyer, so I went and took his, but then I came back to you. But it was trying to find enough people talking about strategic branding. And then I think I found Melinda's content and I looked at hers. But every time I looked at someone else, I always came back to Brandmaster Academy. And this is not a paid commercial, y'all. Trust and believe. But there's just so much context and so much understanding behind how you explained it to us. And I am not a fan of online courses. I need people to talk to me. And so to get so much value out of a course, it's like, oh shit, this is what I've been doing wrong all this time. It was such an eye-opening experience. And like I said, it helped me to better step into, you know what, if I have to be the face of my business, I know how I was in my old business. I had a personal brand back then. I was known as Mrs. Mister because my husband was Big Mister. But I had gotten so caught up into that I tell people I had an identity crisis because I felt like if I wasn't her, I wasn't worth much. And it started to impact me personally. And so now understanding strategic branding and understanding that I didn't want to go back down that rabbit hole, it's like, okay, if I give this heifer a name, then I have to make sure that, you know what, I can do personal branding without taking it personally.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, it's not that it's about blaming the personal brand, but it's understanding what I want the personal brand for. Mm-hmm. And when I'm not working, I can go back to being Phyllis. And so, like I said, if it had not been for your content and it had not been for all of the different courses that I paid for from listening to you, I would not have even found personal branding. I would still be trying to do a business branding, which I think there's enough people out there doing that on that level where, you know what, y'all need to do some strategic personal branding, not just personal branding, showing up because you're the owner. So it takes more than that.
Yeah. And for me personally, when I see people who have come through our programs go out into the world and do the exact thing, follow the exact process that we lay down, you know, and as you know, 101 of branding is positioning, is giving your audience, giving the market that reason as to why you're different from the rest and why they should choose you. When I see that in action, and you know, I very much see that in your brand, it's very, very rewarding. And that's something that, you know, if I can point out to anybody how valuable positioning is and how valuable finding your own voice is, you know, all you have to do is look at Phyllis's brand, because what you're doing and what you have done is you have, because you're very active in LinkedIn, you're very active on social, but I don't see anybody out there on LinkedIn or on the socials speaking about brand in the way you're speaking, with the angle that you're speaking from, with the philosophy that you're adopting, and that you're selling out there in the market. So, you know, you have your position nailed down. When I think of Phyllis, I don't just think of another brand strategist. I think of the Ghetto Country Brand Mother. So why don't you talk to us about the Ghetto Country Brand Mother and your philosophy on personal branding and brand personality specifically as well, because your language and your tone and the way you deliver your message is so important. So talk to us a little bit about why you positioned yourself in the way you did, and whether or not that was a difficult decision for you to kind of go all in on that.
And I would say that it was, because being Ghetto Country, it's a way of life for me. And when I first started saying it, when I said it out loud for the first time in public, was on Clubhouse. And I said, you know what, I'm Ghetto Country. I was raised hood adjacent by a country mama, and that's just what this is. And if people don't like it, then that's on them. And it was a difficult thing to do, because for a long time, like I say, when I talk about my insecurities, one of the things I was insecure about is the way that I talk. And being thought of as unintelligent or ignorant or ghetto in general, which is totally different from being Ghetto Country. But just having that persona thrust upon me, it made me think that people are going to see me as uneducated. And I know I'm educated. I have degrees. I have certifications. I have all this knowledge because I love learning. But sweetie, when it comes out of my mouth, this my mama and my daddy. This is what I was raised on. This is the family that I just, you know, we sat down and we threw spades and dominoes and all of that kind of stuff. And it was like, I had to get comfortable with that. And sometimes, like I said, I still have a little bit of insecurity about it, but I own it, because now you can't use it as a weapon against me. And talking about the philosophy behind it is because I want people to find, there's someone, Sean Walsh, he always quotes me, he's like, Phyllis told me to own my crazy. And this is what I talk about. As far as my personal brand, this whole Ghetto Country vibe, sweetie, this is just a portion of me. When I say that you are not your brand, I'm saying that you can't nobody handle all the crazy that's locked up in here. So there's a portion that I bring to the world in order to do what I do effectively.
Mm.
And it's like, even when you talk about, you know what, charge your worth or charge your value or whatever that is, sweetie, I take the price tag off me. Because if you're telling me that, then I'm taking on something that is not doable. Because I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not a hoe. I'm not a prostitute. So there's no price tag on my ass. But what there is there's value in the work that I do. And I can put a price on that and feel comfortable. And even after, like, say, taking your course, I put a 4-figure price on that and be comfortable. Whereas before, I was barely one of those charging like $47 and all of that other kind of nonsense. Mm. But it's taking the weight off of trying to show up authentically in a respect that, you know what, I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it 100. And you lay your shit bare. And by that, I mean, you put all your business in the street as if that's going to make me like you more, when in actuality, it makes me like you less. Because you think that it's like trying to buy friends based on vulnerability. And that's some bullshit. You have enough that you can bring to your brand without putting everything out there. So what parts do we need to bring? And when we talk about it from a cultural standpoint, I'm not talking about Black culture. I'm talking about the culture that you want to mix up and turn it into a personal brand that you can make money with. And so when I talk about you are not your brand, I'm saying that, sweetie, there's something in there that we can take, give that shit a name, sit it on the porch and let it make you some money. But the rest you get to keep you to yourself, because you deserve to have. People are always talking about mental health, but then I'm gonna stop because
it's
crazy out there.
What I love about you've only just touched on it, but you've touched on it in a way that that I also speak about. I don't know if you can hear that. There's some serious rain here in the south of France at the moment. But the what you touched on there is vulnerabilities, and there is this idea that the more vulnerable you are, the more people are going to like you, and that's as you said. But how far do you go with that? Because there are people who take it too far, and it aligns with my philosophy of authenticity and the percentage of authenticity that you bring to the table. Because from one person to the next in the world, people know us differently. My parents know me in one way, and that's in the very high 90s. But my wife knows me even more. My kids know me in some ways, and then my friends know me in another way. And there are different level of percentages. And the further outside those circles you go, the less of your true self you give to others. It's about finding that balance, and it's about giving the right level of authenticity and choosing what you give. And I like the way you've developed the strategy and a framework around that. And that it's what you're saying is that personal branding is not just about showing up and being yourself. You have to really understand who you're trying to connect with and what you want to give them and why you want to give that to them. So I love that you've kind of gone out there and you've developed your own philosophy and your own framework around that. Another thing that what you said is super interesting to me is your own insecurities. Because we're all well aware of imposter syndrome, and I don't care who you are, you can go all the way to the top on that. Well, I've spoken about this a million times before. The biggest of the big, the most successful of the most successful, all deal with imposter syndrome in some way, shape, or form. In terms of getting the processes that you needed to start charging what you feel you're worth, what gave you that confidence, the confidence that you now have that you use in your personal brand? What helped you with that confidence to kind of step out there into the world and start to raise your rates and be confident about the prices you're charging?
It wasn't so much confidence as it was courage, because it's like in some of the content that you created, you talked about the ladder pricing and all of that kind of stuff. And when I first saw that with you and I saw the price that you put on there, I put an extra number on there. So mine was 4 figures instead of the 3 figures that you suggested. But in doing that, when I did that 4 figures, I offered it to someone, but then I gave them a longer process. And it was a thing because I charged this person $1,600 and I gave them this full-blown strategy and all this kind of stuff. And she did not use it. She did not use it. She did not own it. She did not do any part of it because what ended up happening, excuse me, she started connecting with me on the Black girl magic kind of vibe. I'll put it like that. And so like, oh, girl, I want to do like you and I want to be this thing. And so she connected on that vibe. And this is kind of how we built out her strategy. But she forgot who she was because she was connecting with me on the Black girl magic side. And because her demeanor is very refined and it's very soft-spoken and it's very spiritual. Sweetie, you could have brought a little Black girl magic to that, but that's not what you wanted. And so, I mean, it's not what I gave her what she asked for, but I didn't give her what she needed. And that's because I wasn't refined in the strategy that I was developing yet. And I wasn't listening properly. So you can give people what they want, and still not give them what they need. You ask for this and you have it, but now you won't use it. And in that first strategy, I thought it's like, dang, I jacked up. I messed up. I don't know how to fix this. But because somebody had actually paid me $1,600, I like, oh, but shit, I'm going to go out here and figure this out and I'm going to go do my thing. So it was having that first person that actually paid me $1,600. And even though I gave them more than I said I would for the $1,600, it's what helped me to start developing my process and making sure that people understood. It's like, you know what, this is what started pushing me towards personal branding. We need to understand you first, because I'm also a certified life and business coach. So, you know what, let's look at your life and see what you actually want for your life, brand, and business, and not just for the brand. Mm-hmm. But it was all because that first one, it's still sitting out there unused. And I still have a little bit of twinge of failure on that, but it was a good thing. And it's knowing that people want certain things, but you don't always want what you ask for. You don't know what you want. And I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time trying to do their own strategy, because you don't know how to ask yourself the hard questions. So you put on a persona that you think people want instead of the one you actually want. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the confidence that you got to kind of raise those rates was courage at first, going out there and charging this big amount, and then going back and learning how to fix problems in a different way, and then kind of adding to those rates as you go. And it's something that I definitely encourage, because, when you're starting out in brand strategy and offering services for the first time, and you're transitioning from execution, let's say you're transitioning from design to copywriting, to go out there into the world and start charging $10,000 for strategy when you haven't done it before, you don't have the right to do that necessarily. You need to give value in not just processes, but also experience as well. And that needs to be built over time. So, following that process and kind of, learning from the mistakes as you go and adding to that experience will help that confidence and help you to charge the rates that you're worth over time. So I really love that. But in terms of what's in front of you at the moment, what you've got in the frying pan at the moment for Ghetto Country Brand Mother, what have you got that's up and coming, that you're kind of looking to evolve within what you're doing at the moment?
One of the things I want to do is at some point I want to expand Grandma's House and license out the process that I do. And that's because I know everybody doesn't need a Ghetto Country Brand Mother. Somebody needs a soccer mom. Somebody needs a pal dad or whatever. And it's about being a brand parent more than it is about just being a brand mother. And so having that nurturing effect, having someone who's a strategist that's empathetic in a way that, you know what, let's nurture you instead of just handing you some shit and sending you out into the world to try and figure it out. It's like, let's license out this process so that we can have a more empathetic thing, so that people can develop cultures that they actually want to be part of instead of just building a business. And like I said, I've built a business and I've had employees and I've done taxes. Oh my God. And all of that kind of stuff. But it's like, all right, how do you maintain your own integrity within all of that? And it's both professional and personal that you have to maintain that integrity, because people end up getting disillusioned by their own business because they turned it into a job and they made it about the bottom line. But I think if you build a brand culture, which is, I think, starts from the personal brand, are you attracting the right people, not just as clients, but as hires, then I think it's going to hit different. And I think companies can be built better and people won't be so fearful about hiring if they understand that they're hiring a right fit, not just based on skill, but also based on how you fit in this culture that I'm building. You know what I mean? So it's just taking on that persona. And that's what I want to get into, is making sure that this process works well enough where it can be licensed out and we can start making different brand parents.
And look, I speak about branding all day, every day. And, one of the questions that I get asked most is, what is the process for finding your difference in the market? And I think, there are so many different ways that you can go down that, but my feedback is always the same. My guidance is always the same in any market, no matter how packed it is, because we know in the brand building space, there are no shortage of people out there offering services. But there's only one Ghetto Country Brand Mother, and that in and of itself is the proof in the pudding that, if you embrace who you are, if you embrace your strengths, or if you turn your strengths into, or if you turn your weaknesses into strengths, as you have done yourself, there are so many different angles that you can go down. It's not just about being the biggest and the best and the cheapest and the fastest and the more convenient. It's about connecting with people, just as you do with your friends. How do I connect with my friends, and why do my friends like me? What is it about me that they like, and how can I bring that to the world and wrap my brand around that? So, anybody listening, whether you're in brand strategy, offering services, whether you're building your own brand out yourself, just know that, with a bit of creativity and a bit of authenticity, looking internally to find what your strengths are and what you want to give to the world, there's a position out there for everybody. And if you find your creativity and find a way to wrap that up and bring it to the world, then, you're going to go all in on it, because you're going to believe in it. And when you believe in it, it's far more likely to be successful going forward. Phyllis, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will hold you to that barbecue if I ever get over to your side of the world, which I will eventually. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and we'll all see you in the socials very shortly.
All right, sweetheart, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Phyllis. I want to take a second to show some appreciation. I appreciate every single one of our listeners, but I have a soft spot for listeners who share the love. Shout out to Patrick Beattie from the UK. Stephen Houraghan is brilliant. Listening to this podcast should be compulsory part of every entrepreneur's early stage development. The insight delivered here, especially on the 14 stages of building a brand, has completely changed my perspective on how we should start a business. Thank you, Stephen Houraghan, for your incredible work. I wish I knew about your actionable steps to build a brand 20 years ago. If you want to share the love and possibly get a shout out on the podcast, please take a couple of minutes to leave a review on your favorite platform. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to learn more brand strategy techniques to level up your skills, make sure you check out brandmasteracademy.com. There's plenty of free resources and premium content for you to download and get you going. If you'd like to join our Facebook group full of like-minded brand strategists, all learning from each other, then find us by searching for the Brand Strategy Community, where you can find exclusive content for members as well. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to give us an honest review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listened, and make sure you tune in for the next episode of the Brandmaster Podcast.